Hello and welcome to Kramer's Corner in cooperation with Coherent to this little video about some of the most interesting developments in the financial markets over the past week or so. And this video is an educational video only. There's no recommendation or advice whatsoever. It is only to demonstrate how I use technical analysis to apply to my decision making and how you can use it too. So let's get cracking. Today we'll have a look at Novo Nordisk, Eli Lilly, which is the competitor. We'll look at gold, S&P 500, and the DAX, the German leading index. Here on the left side, I have a daily chart. On the right side, a weekly chart. When I go to gold, I will have a look at the monthly chart instead, which is quite interesting also. But here we'll keep left for the daily and right on the weekly. Each candle, I'm using candlesticks. Each candle represents 1 day of trading over here on the left side and 1 week of trading on the right side. The red one symbolizes that's the bearish move intraday, or a bullish move when it's green, intraday or intra-week. Below I have RSI, relative strength index. It is measured over 14 periods. And it tells you a little bit about the trends and the sentiment and so on. I have two lines here horizontal, the 60 and the 40 threshold. If the RSI is above the 60 threshold, or stays above that, we are in a positive sentiment until it breaks below and closes below 40. And then we are in a bearish, and then it needs to get back above 60 threshold. Then I have some moving averages. I have 21, 55, 100 and 200 moving averages. But let's start with Novo Nordisk that issued or published earnings before market today. And so it was fairly well received, despite that they down adjusted their expectations, so a little bit of not profit warning, but down adjusted their expectations for the full year. But it wasn't apparently not as bad as the market would have expected. They are still great earnings. So we are trading up a little bit today. We're actually trading up about 4% at the moment. And it has peaked above the key resistance here at 465. And RSI is still below 60 threshold. So we technically are still in a negative sentiment. So we need a close on above both, above 465. Danish kroner, and to confirm a bullish trend, also a close on the RSI above 60 threshold. Looking at the weekly chart, we had also some interesting development here. A couple of weeks ago, we had a bullish candle. Market opens at its lowest, 380, just above the 365 support, and then buyers just kept buying throughout the week, most of the week at least. We can see it here also on the daily. And this is called what we call the belt hold candle. It is actually a fairly strong bullish reversal. So it's a bottom and reversal pattern. And last week was also a fairly good day. So I think we will see Novo pushing higher here in the coming days and weeks. But we need to close above 465 at least to really establish a bullish trend. And RSI on the daily needs to close above 60 threshold. So let's see about that, if it can regain some of the lost, almost more than 60% that are lost for less than a year, actually. There will be strong resistance up here at 526. You can see it also here. And what we actually form here also is a falling channel-like pattern. It's not really a wedge. It's not steep enough, but it could be a wedge. And it has broken up the upper falling trend line. So next step will be 526, possibly 550. Moving on to its competitor, Eli Lilly, which has done much better than Novo Nordisk over the past year or so, but it basically just traded sideways. Excuse me. Basically just traded sideways here at a key support here at 725 on the weekly. Managed to close above the 100 moving average also on the weekly. However, weekly sentiment is actually negative. RSI never closed above 60 threshold here, and it closed below 40 there. So I've actually been in negative sentiment for quite some time. Short term here, we can see that About a week ago, it gapped lower and much lower. Some bad news came in, and it was hammered throughout the session, and a little bit of a breather, and then yesterday it got beaten too. If it closes below 762, then we could see a further selling pressure, and especially if it's being supported by an daily RSI close below 40 threshold, then we could see selling pressure to increase and push it below 700 and down here. These lows here below 700 could actually be seen, and possibly if it takes out these lows there at 677, well, then there could be potential down to around here on the right side. You can see on the weekly, we have this consolidation area here back to Q4 2023. And the upper part is around 630, and it could take that. However, if it bounces off and doesn't close below 762, then we could see a bounce back here. But it really needs to get back and close above 850 to go into neutral and try to regain a bullish trend. Moving on to the overall market and S&P 500, quite interesting. I actually zoom in on the daily chart here to better illustrate what's actually going on. So we had this strong bounce here the past few weeks, and here last week, S&P 500 actually tested but got rejected at 5,695 key resistance, and it's key for several reasons. First of all, it was that little correction here after that, a little sell-off and bounce off support here at 5,521. But also, the RSI did not close above 60 threshold. It was actually rejected. So that will be key. We need RSI to close above 60 threshold, and we need S&P 500 to close above 5,695 to continuing the bullish trend. But then it will have some really strong resistance here just below 5,800. First of all, we have this evening doji style turbulent reversal pattern. It needs to cancel. It's still in play, and you can see it actually resulted in a massive sell-off there. Then we have the dead cross here that the 55 moving average broke below the 200, and they are both declining, and they were both declining, and they're still both declining. And the next one is maybe in about a week or so, the 100 moving average will break down below the 200 moving average, and it is possibly also both declining, and they are at the moment. They'll probably continue to do so. So really key on the edge here, really key level here towards, if it starts pushing below 5,490, and especially taking out that little spike down there at 5,433, well, then a downtrend has resumed, and we could see a massive selling hit the market again. Looking at the weekly, well, we have traded around the 61.8 retracement of the entire downtrend here, just around 5,646, and the 55 moving average. And also here we have negative sentiment on the RSI. There's no divergence. It doesn't have to be divergence. Divergence means that the RSI value is not supporting or mirroring the market moves, and in this case here it doesn't. But as you could either be long, most of the market participant can either be long or not invested in stocks. Very few can short them. Then it doesn't have to show divergence here. Anyway, let's move on to DAX, but it could be under pressure, so keep an eye on S&P 500. Let's move on to DAX. DAX index has been a really, really strong, like a V-shaped, almost V-shaped bounce after massive sell-off and market open here a few weeks ago, just above 18,500, massive bounce, and it actually continued, of course, with some volatility, gaps higher here end of April, and continue higher, even a gap there, and we're very close to just below the all-time highs here, and that seems to be a little bit of a struggle. But we have the RSI in a positive sentiment. There's no divergence indicating that we are likely to see higher levels. You can see the RSI high here at 64.40 is corresponding nicely with the close here, a higher close here. It was a lower close here, so of course RSI declined a little bit. If it takes out the all-time highs, well, then there's potential much higher above 24,000. But I think we will see a little bit of a setback here the next few days. There was a lot of turmoil yesterday with the chancellor election in the German parliament that ended with a new chancellor after a couple of rounds. However, we have the 21 moving average about to break above the 100 moving average, which is a bullish sign. It's a golden cross or gold cross. And we have the 55 moving average also coming up here, supporting, underlying support of the trend. So I think after a little bit of a setback, I think DAX will push higher. And we can see here also on the weekly chart, massive bounce. And there we could be in for a new all-time high. To totally demolish this picture, we will see a close below, and I'll adjust this a little bit, 22,225. Then we have a different situation. Finally, on gold, we saw a strong bounce, and let me just add a Fibonacci here. So what has actually been going on? So first of all, we had this strong uptrend here. Market setback. I actually expected it to drop down to around 3,165, which is the 61.8 retracement of this uptrend here, and there's the strong support. It didn't go all the way down there. Actually, it dipped below the 50%, the orange one here, and then it bounced. So it found bids much earlier, and that's a sign of strength. So it pushed really quick 2 sessions up to the 786 retracement of 3,436 and a little bit higher actually, and then a little bit of a setback. I think we will see it pushing higher, and if it takes out 3,437, this spike up here, then I think we will see a push higher, and then we can actually project it and guesstimate where it could move to. 138.2 projection of this correction here is just above 3,600, and the 161.8, the golden ratio, is at 3,685. So it's just around 3,700, and we could shoot up to there. There's bullish sentiment on the other side. There's minor divergence here, but we are in a bullish trend. Higher highs, higher lows, higher highs, higher lows, and a possible new high will give it energy to push higher. So fairly strong. Let's move on to the weekly. Just very quickly, there is divergence on the RSI. You can see the RSI values here are lower than here. So that means an indication of trend exhaustion. But again, you should trust the trend. So let's move on to the monthly to round it off. And we can see here, we have looked at the monthly so many times, and we'll do it again. So first of all, we had this cup with a handle propelling it higher after the breakout. And then we added some Fibonacci extension. It's actually this one, more sharp there, correction there, and then extended higher. And it indicates 200% of that we could get to 3,645. So in the region between 3,600 and 3,700 is in the cards to be reached if it takes out the previous peak. So let's see about that, but it looks fairly strong on the gold for now. All right, that's all for today and this week. Thank you very much for watching, and talk to you again next week.